Oona,
Hi,
lovely to see you again.
you as well, as always.
So, what has been your experience whilst you've been here?
Oh, I mean, NFC Lisbon, every time I came here last year, it is, I don't know, I guess just a mix of really nice people like yourself. You get to meet collectors, you get to meet other artists, and candidly, right now, I'm feeling relieved because I just came off main stage. So it's always a nice feeling after
That's
you're done.
that's your job done. You have made an impression.
Yes, I think I made a very clear statement. I think the technology that binds us here is incredibly progressive, but the attitudes that we sometimes have towards women, gender, sexuality, can be incredibly regressive. So the piece of video art that I just released is basically comparing women in the oil painting to women in NFTs. And while I only display one sliver, I think I take a very clear shot. What did you think?
I thought that you made a very clear point that this approach to portraying women in art is the same as it's always been.
Yeah, nothing revolutionary, which is so funny because, right, like I always think that people can bond closer to ideas. And we've obviously established a very clear bond collectively that this many fucking weirdos want to come to Lisbon over the idea of this technology. So, how can we become as progressive as the technology? If we're looking at women in the same way that they did in the 1400s, well, then technology is outpacing our ways of seeing. So, we have some catching up to do.
Yeah, it's a very clear point. It's interesting to think of it in that way as well because I sat there going, yeah, that's a really that's a good point actually. Yeah. So, and I think everyone there like had a good experience. And what was the idea behind the gossip bit as well? So you sort of forced people to talk about it.
Yeah, so two things. One, it's like John Cage, where I did it for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. So the opposite of John Cage's silence was gossip. And there's something that we're so used to talking a lot of shit online, but then when you get people to talk to strangers in person, there's a different layer of connection. And so I had two people come up to me afterwards and say, hey, I'd actually never met the person to my left. Thank you. I chatted with them. And it's about building those like IRL bridges, right? So that way there's a level of rapport that I have with you that, great, then that can be carried on online. Like
Yeah.
you can know my tone, you can know the cadence, whereas like when you're only communicating digitally, a lot can get lost. So a bit of gossip never hurt anyone.
Oh my God, I'm getting attacked. Yes, a bit of gossip. Yes. So, sorry, that completely threw me.
Ready, and scene.
Cat. No. So, yeah, that's a really nice thing to do because yeah, you have your level of interaction, and then when you meet in life, in real life, well, it's often very superficial, and you've got to go through the dance of how do you speak to someone that you've just met, and it's often the same conversation over and over.
And then when you give people an idea, everyone has a perspective, right? And like, if we're talking about building a web here, a web that is the most resilient web has the most distinct points. So let everyone have their own point of view. Let's just make sure that we're talking to each other so the web is actually being built. Stretching, stretching, stretching. That's the plan. We
Very
like to
nice.
try.
So, in Paris, you had and New York, you
And
had
London, and
and
Los Angeles.
you had a performance, Look Touch Own,
Yes.
and what was the what were your thoughts coming out of that? Because obviously it was a very intense experience, probably not quite what you expected. I don't know. You tell me.
No, definitely very intense. And just for context, Look Touch Shown is a performance in which I used to have silicone implants, I get them removed. I now invite people one by one for 60 seconds to touch my breasts, touch the implants, touch the scars, and then I track every bit of data of how they looked, how far they stood, what they did, what they touched. And basically, in analyzing the data, I have good taste in people. So everyone that came to the private previews was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then in Paris, where it was public, a bit more mixed of a crowd. And I guess in terms of like trying to answer your question very literally, what I got out of that is there's no beauty in unleashing ugliness into the world. So I'm taking time to sit with the data sets from Paris to understand, okay, so if people did objectify the female form, if people did violate boundaries, how can we make art about that that is actually beautiful and that invites you into the story rather than shaming. Like,
Right.
we don't need more shame in the world. We don't need more of that in the world. So I'm taking that time to kind of like process that, and it's connecting me with wonderful, brilliant people like yourself. So, you know, for as much bad, there's always good. And I think if we hold on to the good, then it's all going to end up all right.
Yeah, that's a good way to approach
What
it. for
did you
sure.
make of it?
Well, I thought it was astounding, quite frankly, and it was very interesting because everyone there was talking about it, and there were so many different opinions about what you were doing, and those opinions were changing as people talked about it more, and so it was one of the most impactful things that was happening in Paris, and
thank you.
it spread through everyone, I think. So.
Thank you. Yeah, there's something so funny, right? Because my practice is about gender and sexuality. And as soon as you say that, you kind of realize that most people, by the way that we've been conditioned in let's just locus it to Western societies, in Western societies, as soon as you're a female who presents anything to do with sexuality, people kind of deny intellect. So teasing that line of, wow, yeah, it is about bare breasts, it is about nudity, but also there's a lot of concept to it, and how can you dive into that? That's a fun tension point within the performance.
Yeah. Well, it was amazing watching people come out. People
Yeah.
go in with one face and they come out white as a sheet, shell-shocked, or there's all sorts of things coming out. But generally, you could see that everyone had an experience.
And this is what I think was quite interesting about Paris, right? Because it was a performance that was done over 2 days. And over those 2 days, people had time to premeditate what they were going to do, how they were going to act, like what gestures they wanted to do. So I had some people come in with a complete agenda, and they knew exactly what they were going to do before they even stepped in, which was quite interesting. And I think that notion of kind of like building and building and building is part of the tension of performance art, right? So people come in to this space where I'm technically the performance artist, but really the participant becomes a performer.
I couldn't possibly imagine.
No, never. I did have some real moments in Paris of like complete transcendence, like 60 seconds that felt like it could have lasted eons, and like real sweetness and real sharing. And I think that those moments, especially as like intimacy and privacy and boundaries become so violated online and offline right now, to recreate that kind of like eye-to-eye connection, heart-to-heart connection, spirit-to-spirit connection. That's the power of art to me. Fuck a sale.
Yeah.
Let's connect spiritually.
Absolutely. So, what's next?
Well, Look, Touch, Own is going to Miami, Art Basel.
Okay.
So I
It's
think
not finished yet, then.
No. It's only just begun. I've been invited to Art Basel in Basel to exhibit. So I'm doing an installation there featuring the implants.
Okay.
Which is quite funny to me because 2 years ago I was kicked out of Art Basel Miami for doing a performance about the breasts.
Really?
So lo and behold, they always invite you back, is what I've learned.
They catch up.
Yeah. They catch up. Or you just make them catch up. So Look, Touch, Own continues.
Okay.
It will be a year-long journey of breast beauty and blockchain.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes and wish you the best of luck. I don't think I'll be there, but I'll be there.
Oh, you'll be at one. We'll get you back. Thank you.
Thank you.